Hello, Kings. Welcome back. Today is a very special day indeed. Oh, crap. On this channel, I'd like to have podcasts every now and then with special guests, such as my best friends, guys named Carl, stuff like that. I think it could be very beneficial. And I think it's unique. And so just every now and then I'm going to have somebody in here, somebody know, go back and forth. Maybe even do it over a video call. Because, that's possible. So today, our first guest is going to be Ethan Lowe. He is a student pilot, professional blacksmith, 6'6" ginger, ex-basketball player, current jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, Muay Thai student. And today is going to be a very special episode indeed. Okay. Space. It's so beautiful. The elegance. The story of why I love space. Space is one of my favorite topics to talk about because it's so vast and it's very mysterious. And I think as humans we're very attracted to things that are mysterious. This is why women are attracted to men who don't reveal everything about their lives. They're attracted to mysterious men. And space. Okay. Space before 1969, before the 1950s, was the unreachable. The domain of the gods. The one place we couldn't reach. And the one place that was full of unknown mystery. But in the 1950s, the space race began. And we had all kinds of things going on between Russia and the United States about, who could develop, the space technology the quickest. And the Russians were actually leading the space race for the beginning of the time because they launched Sputnik, which was the first satellite to ever go in orbit. And it didn't take any pictures, it didn't do anything special, but it said, beep, beep, beep. And that's what it did. This was terrifying for the United States. Why? Well, let's think about what orbit means. What is an orbit? An orbit is when you send something into space, I think past this, whatever it's called, the proapsis or the climax of the altitude that it reaches, which is about 56 to 68 kilometers from the ground, from sea level, or ground level, my bad. I think that's about it. I think it'll defer on your altitude above sea level about wherever you are, but it's about 54 to 68 kilometers above the earth, I think. Kilometers or meters or something like that. That's besides the point. When something enters orbit, that means, if you can send something into space and it not go into orbit. If you send something into space but it doesn't go high enough to go into orbit, it'll go like this. Hold on, I'll be right back. I have something very special for this. Space is so beautiful. The elegance. This right here is the Blue Origin. This is actually a model of a real rocket that I made myself. I know, I'm freaking awesome. Did a great spray painting job on it, by the way. But this is the Blue Origin, owned by a private company. And this rocket is actually a real rocket. And you see these little pods right here? This is a 2-stage rocket. It goes up into space. This part detaches and this part goes on. This part actually comes and lands like, on a pad like that in the middle of the ocean. No, it's not in the middle of the ocean, but it's like it actually goes back to the facility that's in the desert. I'm not sure which desert it's in, but this part lands by itself, but this part goes into space. And they send famous people up there, people who are rich that can buy a ticket to space essentially, and they send them up, but they don't go into orbit. It's because they don't go high enough. They go up, and it's just this part, and they're just kind of sitting in space. Like they go up, they're past the atmosphere, but they're still drawn to the Earth, and so they're going to go up, and they're actually going to do this. Reaches proapsis, the top, the climax, and come right back down and deploy its parachute. But orbit is when rocket goes up. Let's say end of atmosphere is right here. It goes past. If you go too far, you're going to go into deep space and you're screwed, and you're just going to fly forever and die somewhere. But if you go past the atmosphere just enough up here in the middle somewhere, you're in orbit. This is the ground of the Earth. This is the atmosphere. The atmosphere is still pulling you towards the Earth, but not enough to suck you back into the atmosphere and bring you back down to the Earth's surface. So you're actually just trailing along, and just going around the Earth, orbiting the Earth, just like we orbit the Sun. And so back to this rocket, the Blue Origin. This is actually an Estes model rocket. I'd really recommend this one. This was probably the most fun one to make. You put your little engine out there. It's actually a really slick rocket. Anyways, and so they go up, but they don't go right here where it takes to get into orbit. They go right here. So they're in space. So they might be up there for a few minutes, an hour, 30 minutes. But then back down. And so actually they go back down to the Earth's surface, which is pretty freaking cool, because then all those rich people get to go into space. By the way, I'm actually going to be one of those rich people someday, if you didn't know. I actually have a fighting chance of being an astronaut, believe it or not, because right now, currently, I'm a student pilot, and my goal is to get into the Air Force and be a fighter pilot. If I'm too tall to be a fighter pilot, I'll be a bomber pilot or a cargo pilot. It'll be a blessing to fly anything in the Air Force. But and then after I'm there for my contract or 10 or 15 years, I like to apply to be a test pilot. If I get accepted, most astronauts have been test pilots, and so I actually have a fighting chance of going to space someday and getting paid to do it, might I say. So that'd be pretty cool. Anyways, back to rockets. The Russians say this is Sputnik. I'll go get I'm gonna go get a different rocket. Space. It's so beautiful. The elegance. The story of why. Okay. Is this an old enough looking rocket for you guys? There. It looks a little bit more OG. You know what I'm saying, cuz? I'm just joking. But the Russians would send this rocket into space. Again, went past the line of the atmosphere, just high enough. It opens up, and this comes out. Psh, beep, beep. Beep. And what it do is this thing either comes back down to the Earth or goes off in deep space. They don't care about this nearly as much as they do about this. Hold on a second. And what this is Sputnik, the satellite. It don't do much. It look kind of cool, but it's orbiting. It's going around the Earth for days, weeks, months at a time, rather than 30 minutes to an hour. Wait, let's say this is Earth. And it's orbiting the Earth. It's going to go around. It makes a signal. And you can track that signal from any country if you have the right equipment and just hear it, through your ears. I have a friend that I was at a flight school that I learned from. Very amazing man. He's a Vietnam veteran. He used to fly the T-37 and the T-38. But he also worked with NASA for a time. And he could hear, one time they said, tune into, the coordinates, blah, 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 up in space. And he did. And they could hear Sputnik. He was one of the guys behind the thing where they tracked it and they heard it from the U.S. They heard Sputnik. And that's a really cool story. But anyways, Russia had a satellite in space. And if you can get a satellite into space, go all the way around, mind you, all the way around the Earth, circling everything that's on the Earth, what else can you get into space? A nuke. You could get a nuke into space. And that's bad. You could get a nuke into space. And nukes are bad. And us Americans knew that passionately. And so it sparked a lot of fear. And so while we were still working on getting our first satellite into space, I think it might have been after, but we were still, trying to catch up to what they had done. They put a man into space. And that, it's not as crazy as, figuring out how to put something into orbit. But it was still pretty crazy. And so, but then eventually, we countered them. Well, we didn't counter them, but after that we threw up Alan Shepard into space, which is really cool. Go watch the movie Hidden Figures. It talks about that. It's a really good movie. You should go watch it. But yeah. But then eventually we countered them because we sent a man to the moon, which was really crazy. But yeah, space is real cool. I like learning about black holes and stuff, like the space shuttle and all kinds of rockets. Space aviation is a very interesting topic, especially, with SpaceX and Elon Musk and all this this new stuff. With people going to Mars here pretty soon. So, yeah, it's very interesting. I'm very excited for what the future has. And, yeah, space is freaking cool. Yeah. I was actually at the gym yesterday. And I walked out of the gym. And there were these old guys, on the sidewalk out there. And they had two cars parked side by side. With a bunch of equipment out on the dock. Not the dock, but the sidewalk. There were telescopes. They were looking at the stars. Two old men, and I learned one of them was actually an Air Force veteran, 20 years in service in Korea. Vietnam, my bad. But, he was really cool. I gotta look at the moon. I gotta see the craters in the moon. Like the little parts of the moon. It was so cool, like live. It's so much more different than seeing a picture or a video. It's so much more enlivening. It was really cool. And then he showed me this part of the Little Dipper where you could see two different stars were actually orbiting each other. And so that was pretty crazy too. But space is great. It's definitely one of the cooler things out there, if you know what I mean. And thank God for beef jerky. Sorry. No, I'm not. I'm home alone right now, and so I've just been eating food and, meditating a lot and reading, and I'm just kind of in the zone right now, I've just been eating and spending a lot of time with thought. I'm just in the zone right now. I just thought, I'd record it so I could, look back on it, because this is a good thing, being able to take in your surroundings and really meditate and be present is a very good thing, and I think that can be good for other people to see as well. I have something very special to show you. This is a Japanese officer sword. And excuse the hairband right here. It's just keeping the end together because the end is like fraying up here. But I received this as well as this dog tag from my great-grandfather who passed last year. But he actually got this when he was in service in Japan. His ship was there, the USS McKean. And look at this blade. This blade is older than this house I'm in. This is a very old sword. And swords back then were pretty much all hand-forged. And as you can see, it's not perfectly straight. And so that's how you know something is hand-forged, when it has some sort of defect in it. But if you look, this blade is in great condition. Like, I can still almost shave with this blade. Like, this is a very, 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 very well intact blade. It's beautiful. It's a piece of art. And I really have a very strong appreciation for swords and blades and weapons because I'm a blacksmith. And so, number one, it's my job to know. And it's something I have a passion for. And, I love learning about the different swords, the medieval times and, the Japanese swords. Because actually Japanese knives, there's a very rare metal that has to be handmade in Japan. It's called tamehagana, I think. And it makes a very, very sharp and strong blade. And it's good for, like, knives and small swords. And so, the handle's a little weird. I'm going to restore it someday and make it back to perfect condition and polish it up. And here is the sheath for it. It's definitely not what it's called. But it is a very beautiful sword. It actually has, in the side here, a little side knife. If you have a limited knowledge about swords and customs and courtesies of capture in Japan during World War II, you probably don't know what it is. But if you do, then it's kind of a if you know, you know kind of thing. But this is a very, very beautiful sword, and definitely one of my more prized possessions. And just swords in general, I have a very big passion for. Right now, I'm currently building a Viking sword right now, kind of an Uffenbert kind of sword, and I'm making it out of leaf spring, and so I'll show that when I'm done. Here's another one of the swords I have. It's a pretty cool sword. It's actually, I think it's literally made from like the frame of a bed, but that's okay because it looks cool. And it's a sword. But my point is, swords are really cool. And I love learning about them because swords are so popular in common, media and Hollywood culture. They're so prominent, they've almost become boring. And that's sad because swords are not an easy thing to make. If you have any knowledge about bladesmithing, a sword is not an easy thing to produce. And back in the olden days, the medieval times and the Vikings, swords were very respected. It was a sign of high status, a sign of a high quality man if he had a sword, because swords were a very hard thing. And swords were actually passed down generation. Like, it was a big deal, like, for a father to give his son the family sword. Like, it was a very big thing in culture back then, because swords, there's such a bad rap about blacksmithing. Like, it's become such a, like, a dwarven blacksmith stereotype, and I guess that's not necessarily a bad thing, the fact that it still has any recognition in pop culture at all. That's always a good thing. But the point is, it's a very dying trade, and not a lot of people have any knowledge about it. And to make a good sword, it could take weeks to months to even make it. And a good sword will last for a very long time. Like, there's lots of museums with swords from, like, Vikings that are still in, like, good condition. And Charlemagne's sword, Joyeuse, is actually in a museum today, and it's still beautifully intact with the gold, everything. It's an absolute work of art, and that's the art that I enjoy. I enjoy weapons of old and things like that. And yeah, swords are cool. Swords are very cool. What else is cool? You know what else is cool? Foreign exchange students. Yeah, one of my best friends, we actually went to the airport yesterday, and we picked up this foreign exchange student that's going to be living with him for the next 2 months. Very cool guy. He's actually 10 days older than me, so we're pretty close to the same age. Really cool. He speaks very good English, and his accent is super dope. And then last night I actually had dinner with him. We had burgers and stuff at my friend's house, dude. It was a very good time, and I'm excited to see what the next 10 months are going to be like, because I'll definitely be spending a lot of time with him, and it'll be really great. I might even get to minister to him a little bit, and just show him a good time here in America. I'm very excited. Yeah, I think I'm going to see him actually here in a few hours, so that'll be pretty cool. I don't know how often I'm going to do videos like these when I'm just chilling out, getting in my thoughts. Like, really, this isn't constructed at all. Like, I've just gone on here and talked about just random stuff. Like, literally, I'm just talking. And it's good to verbally think about things, to, talk about what you're thinking, and to, go back in your head, and to, really digest things and think. Thinking is a good thing. Not being in front of a screen and not playing a video game and not watching TV can be a good thing. Just spending time in thought and thinking and, what is life? That is good. It is good for people to do that. It's good to be bored. We live in a culture where entertain, now, dopamine. It's everywhere. People need to be entertained all the time. It's good to be bored. It's good to have to look around and smack your lips and stare at the wall and think about stuff. That is good. Nice little rant there for you. It's pretty dope. But yeah, bro. I had a good time. I hope you did too. And I'm going to sign off here. This is podcast episode number 1. In the bag. I had a good time. I definitely consider doing this again, just having no contract, just kind of talking about stuff. It'll definitely be a lot more fun to actually have another person on here. And so I'm looking forward to that. It'll be really great. But yeah, today's been a good day. I've got a lot of work done, and so I'm just kind of, enjoying life right now. Some free time just to think, read, meditate, smell candles. It's been a good day. I'm going to have a great rest of my day too. And I hope you guys do too. Thank you so much for listening. If you made it this far, you're a real G. And I'm on your side, bruh. Thanks for listening. GG.